Manchester City have sealed a good win and they go into that huge game with Liverpool on Super Sunday off the back of a 4-1 success against Borussia Dortmund. Erling Haaland, no doubt the camera focusing on him on the pitch at the moment. He scored, as we knew he would, against his old side, but was he eclipsed by Phil Foden tonight, Danny?
Oh, Phil Foden's two finishes were sublime. Absolutely brilliant. Very, very similar. But I think we've all seen Phil Foden enough. You know, when he receives that ball on the half-turn, lets the ball run across him, takes it on his back foot, he's already running at defenders. And then they don't know which way he's going to go because he has that balance and ability to go both ways. Both finishes, he just strokes it into the far corner. I mean, they're literally a carbon copy of each other. Phil Foden was brilliant, you know, back to his best this evening. Erling Haaland obviously got his goal, as we expect. City, a very professional performance. You know, if City can get that back, and then they can get Rodri back into that team as well, they will be a force. I think, you know, there are still one or two frailties. They conceded 2 or 3 chances late on. Maybe a little bit of complacency crept in, but confident, very good professional performance from Manchester City.
And it's interesting you say that because you think back to last season when City were having all their troubles and they finished, 22nd in the group, didn't they? And they had to go into the playoff.
Them and PSG, I think, finished, 1 or 2 places above the dropout zone.
So they learnt their lesson?
I think a lot of the big teams have learnt their lesson this season. Last season was, because it was a foot, everyone was thinking this will be easy. We'll play against enough teams that will pick up enough points. And a lot of the big teams lost games early on and maybe didn't put out the strongest teams, didn't take it seriously, thinking we've got plenty of games left. I think this season they've gone, oh, hang on a minute, let's get the job done early on. Let's put out our strongest team, we'll take it seriously. And if we can maybe play some of the young lads 2 or 3 games to go, that's what we're going to do. So I think the table this season looks completely different to what it did last year when everyone was... The new format was a little bit confusing for everybody.
I'm sure Pep Guardiola was keeping a close eye on Liverpool last night and their win over Real Madrid. If Arne Slot was watching City tonight ahead of Sunday, what will his main takeaways be?
City weren't spectacular. You know, they were dominant in possession. But I think he'll look at it and think there is space in behind the fullbacks. You know, Adeyemi got in several times. You know, Ryerson, when he came on, got in several times down the right-hand side. He'll be looking at, you know, whether it's Gakpo, Mo Salah, thinking we can exploit this. If we play with 3 high up the pitch, there's every chance we'll create chances against Manchester City. So I think it's he'll look at it and go, if we can stop Erling Haaland, and he got 2, Virgil van Dijk will be right up against him, you know, and man-marking him and make sure, see if he can do that job. And then they'll be thinking, we can exploit City going the other way. Because I still think Aït-Nouri's only just coming back. Full-back is their weaker area. You know, Nunez at right, he's not an out-and-out right-back. He gets lost. O'Reilly plays there at times, goes wandering. You know, City full-backs go wandering into midfield, and they do leave spaces in behind. So, again, it's a chance for Liverpool to exploit that.
Ryan Cherky put 2 on a plate for Haaland at the weekend. He was on the bench tonight. He comes off the bench and he scores. Do you see him starting on Sunday?
I think it's unlikely. You know, Bernardo Silva came off the bench today as well. I think Guardiola will look at it and go, what is my strongest, most experienced team? Cherky, when he comes on, he gets like a free roll and he's allowed quite a lot of freedom. I think you'll see the likes of Bernardo Silva, you know, in that midfield, you know, who will keep the ball, will work incredibly hard, is incredibly diligent in the work that he does. It'll be Pep Guardiola's best team that goes out against Liverpool.
Danny, thanks very much indeed. It tees it up beautifully, doesn't it, with Liverpool's win over Real Madrid last night, coupled with Manchester City putting 4 past Dortmund. Look forward to them going head-to-head on Super Sunday, 4:30, remember, on Sky Sports Premier League. Let's wrap up the results, shall we, from the final night of Matchday 4 in the Champions League. Galatasaray 3-0 winners in Amsterdam. Ajax have lost every game this season. Victor Osimhen scored a hat-trick, couple of penalties in that one. Leverkusen winning away to Benfica, their first win. It's another defeat for Mourinho's side, who've lost every game. Patrick Schick was the match winner there. What a game in Bruges, where 3 times Club Bruges took the lead against Barcelona. 3 times the Catalan Giants responded, including a lovely goal from Lamine Yamal. Bruges thought they'd won it late on, but that 7th goal was chalked off for a foul on the goalkeeper, so they had to settle for a point. Brilliant Champions League night, 3-3 it finished. Inter Milan win again, 4 wins from 4. They haven't last conceded a goal. Who'd have thought it'd be to Qarabag Almaty, but they've won it. Lautaro Martinez among their goal scorers, 12 in his last 11 Champions League games. City, as you heard from Danny, 4-1 winners over Dortmund. Foden with the first and third. He really caught the eye either side of an Erling Haaland goal. Of course, he scored 18 for the season now for Manchester City, and then off the bench, Ryan Cherki putting the gloss on the scoreline with that fourth. Atalanta winning in France against Marseille, a late goal from their substitute, Samardzic, earning a win for them. Newcastle winners tonight as well. We'll talk to Sue in a moment about that 2-0 win over Athletic Club. Dan Burn in the first half, Joe Linton making sure in the second. That's 3 wins in a row in the Champions League without conceding for Eddie Howe's side, so they might be having a few difficulties in the Premier League, especially away from St James's Park, but there's not much doubt about them when they're on home turf on these European nights. Paphos have their first win in the Champions League. They've beaten Villarreal by a goal to nil. That was in the early game, the Cypriot champions. A moment of history for them with that first 3 points. And earlier on, a disappointing night for Chelsea in Azerbaijan, dropping points away to Qarabag. And again, they led early on in with Esteval's goal, but then Qarabag came back at them and they took the lead before half-time by 2-1. They'd lost every previous meeting, Qarabag, against English sides, and Chelsea in the end grateful to scrape a point after Alejandro Garnacho off the bench at half-time and into the goals with an equaliser. But still, surely, considering they put 10 goals past Qarabag when they last met them over 2 legs, I've got to be feeling that was 2 points dropped in Baku tonight. So let's take a look at the Champions League table. We're at the halfway point of the league stage. Down the left, the 8 teams who right now are in pole position for automatic progress to the last 16. Bayern Munich, Arsenal and Inter, the 3 remaining sides with 100% records. Manchester City 2 points back in 4th. PSG beaten last night at home by Bayern in 5th. Newcastle among the elite on the left as well on 9 points alongside Real Madrid and Liverpool after their win over the Spanish side last night. In the middle, you've got those 16 who would need the playoffs. That includes Tottenham, who won last night, of course, and Galatasaray winners this evening in Amsterdam. Barcelona, Chelsea in that group, along with the likes of Dortmund and Atletico Madrid as well. And then down that right-hand side, the teams in danger of elimination, Ajax and Benfica, both still without a single point. And you've also got some pretty big teams there, the likes of Juventus, who all have a lot of work to do. Let's have a chat with Sue then about what she saw at St James's Park. Newcastle 2, Athletic Club 0. Wasn't quite that comfortable, was it, Sue?
No, it wasn't. I think, you know, the most important thing was to get the win, wasn't it? And a reaction from the weekend, because I think, you know, everybody that watched the game, Eddie Howe come out and spoke about it afterwards and said it just wasn't a Newcastle performance. We didn't have that intensity. We didn't have that physicality that we normally have. We weren't as good off the ball. We weren't good on the ball. So, you know, those players wanted to sort of make amends from that, if you like, and the fact that they won and they've got a clean sheet. But, yeah, Athletic Club did cause them problems at times, and they've obviously missing key players as well. You know, the striker, the attacking midfielder, other players that weren't in and around the squad. So you could see that their build-up play was decent, and then they got to the final third and just lacked a little bit. But Newcastle could have had more. You felt that maybe they eased off a little bit in the second half, like that they got the job done. They rotated, they brought other players on. I think it's brilliant to see Lewis Hall back, fit and available. He's been out for a long period of time. I thought Tonali was outstanding in the middle of the park, and Dan Burns' header just looks better every time you watch it. Just watched it again, and the angle that they've got from behind the goal, it sort of curls into that far corner. It's so good. His movement's brilliant. Yeah, you could say that defending, nobody picks him up because he's completely unmarked, but it's just the fact that he heads it back across goal and it just curls in, hits the post and goes in. It's absolutely lovely, and he actually could have had a second. So, yeah, the most important thing for Newcastle was to win 9 points and move on to the weekend. Yeah,
win, especially important when you bear in mind they've got to go to Marseille and then Leverkusen away, so 2 away games for them next. And an away game in the Premier League at the weekend. They go to Brentford. After everything we said before the game, how confident would you be that we will see a similar performance at the weekend?
It's just strange, isn't it? You know, the difference between the home and the away form. And, you know, I think it's something that obviously Eddie Howe's got to try and work out and see why this is happening, because they are so much better at home. And you just think if they can replicate what they did tonight, that intensity, that energy, maybe not being as sloppy at times when they were giving the ball away, because you know what Brentford can do if you do that. But yeah, he'll just want to replicate that performance. And I think the fact that he could take some of his players off and bring others on, sort of rest them and make sure that they're fit and available for that game. But it's a big game, isn't it? He'll want to just win that away game and sort of move on from there.
But certainly boosted by a third successive Champions League win, and all with clean sheets as well. So they right now sit in the automatic places for the last 16 at the halfway point. So a win for Newcastle, a win for Manchester City, only a draw for Chelsea in the early game in Azerbaijan about Qarabag. Let's hear about this one with Sue Smith. What was this one for us before she turned her focus onto Newcastle? You have worked hard tonight, Sue, bless you.
I know, I can't even remember what happened in that.
Well, let me just vaguely refresh your memory.
A long time ago.
I mean, he made 7 changes for this one. Did Maresca underestimate them? Did he take them lightly?
Maybe, but I think he does that anyway. He does rotate in the Champions League. He does make changes. Obviously, he's got a big squad to do that, to be able to compete in all competitions. But yeah, maybe he did. He obviously made the changes then in the half-time break, and they came on, and it was a different game for them. But you could see what it meant to Qarabag. A huge point for them. They all celebrated at the end like they'd won, and I just think Chelsea be disappointed. The mistakes defensively, sort of individually, collectively as a team at times, and going forward, having those chances and maybe not being as clinical. And that's been Chelsea sometimes, hasn't it? You watch them even within a game, not even from game to game. You'll watch them for sort of 20, 25 minutes and you think they're absolutely brilliant and they could beat anyone. And then within that game, then the mistakes come in and teams start to get on top. So they need to get that consistency. You could say that's because they're a young side and maybe that's what happens. But yeah, they'll be disappointed to only get a point from that. But you've got to praise Qarabag and how they were brave at 2-2. They were actually going for the win as well. So it was end to end at the end. You thought one of these teams could potentially get a winner. But yeah, they were delighted, and Chelsea need to learn from it, need to try and get those consistent performances over the 90 minutes. But yeah, obviously when those key players came back on, the likes of Casado, I think Lavia went off injured in the first half, which is a real shame for him. Enzo Fernandez and players like that. Delap came on. They looked at a better side. Obviously Garnacho with the goal. So yeah, disappointing for Maresca, but he'll move on again to the weekend.
Sue, thanks very much indeed. Yeah, it was a real chance not only to pick up another 3 points towards qualification, but to really build on recent results. They, of course, beat Wolves in the League Cup. They've beaten Spurs at the weekend. They've got Wolves and Burnley back-to-back now, but they go into that game against Wolves having dropped points tonight. And also after those 2 games, they've got the small matter of Barcelona and Arsenal back-to-back at the end of November. So an interesting period coming up for Maresca and his Chelsea side, but they will be ruining that result tonight, I should think.